Hi, my name's Cassie Nobbs. I'm a physiotherapist at Comox Physiotherapy in beautiful British Columbia, Canada. My passion is helping people find healthy movement to improve their quality of life, whether that means being able to garden without pain or running a marathon. I hope these videos are helpful. I made these videos with my patients in mind, people whose exercise programs I'm already supervising. So while I am a physiotherapist, I may not be your physiotherapist. And if I'm not your physiotherapist, the following applies. Please be sure to consult with the appropriate healthcare professional before beginning any exercise program because you could hurt yourself. Now with that out of the way, let's begin. It'll be fun. Hi there. For today's video, we're going to talk about core strength. Now, core strength is a global term that we use to talk about strength around the torso that helps to stabilize the body for functional activity. My favorite core exercises do not involve a lot of crunching or deep back bends or anything like that. They're usually done in neutral position. So I'm going to roll through some pretty quick versions of exercises you can do for the front of the body, back of the body, and sides of the body. We're going to start with front plank, and then we're going to move to the back of the body, and then we're going to move to side planks. You would normally combine all these exercises with whatever time you can do for your front plank. You should be doing the equivalent for the back of the body. And the sides of your bodies, whether you're choosing side plank or some other type of oblique exercise, should be approximately 75% of those two. So for example, if front plank was 1 minute, you would do 1 minute of bridging or back lifts, and then you might do 45 seconds of side plank. All right, so let's look at our front plank variations. So for front plank, you have a lot of different options. If you're not terribly strong, you may want to try front plank with your hands on top of something first. So I'm going to demonstrate with this bench. I'm going to put this bench in place, hands here, and now I'm going to get into my front plank position. Now hopefully you're going to be able to get a nice straight plank. So some people will have more pain if they sag or discomfort, and some people will have more if they do this way. We want to be as close to neutral as possible, but if you're the kind of person who tends to get sore when you bend backwards too much, you may cheat with the hips back a little bit. It's okay to do that. It doesn't make it an incorrect plank as long as you can feel your abs working. So this is version 1. That's probably a little easier. Version 2, you can go from hands on the floor. Version 3, we can go to elbows. Now for me, I really have to be careful with my back in this position because my back tends to get sore if my hips sag too much, so I tend to push out just a little bit. Now from this position, you can add some other things if you want to. So one possibility might be, or you can come up to your hands because you need a little clearance, is to do knee touches, like so. Or you can do leg lifts, like that. Or you can do knee out to the side, like that. Now any of these that you would do, any version that you would choose, you would hold with the goal ultimately being about a minute. But let's say you can only hold it for 30 seconds, and you would do the equivalent amount of exercise for your lower back strengthening immediately afterwards. So now we're going to switch over to what you can do for your lower back. So I have a couple of different versions of exercises I like to do for the low back. One of my favorites is bridging. Bridging is a great all-around exercise, and there are lots of different versions you can do. So we can be bridging just straight up old school bridging like this and hold. If we held our front plank for a minute, we would hold this for a minute. We can make it a little harder by bringing the arms up. We can also make it harder by moving the legs, which is, you should keep your hands down on the ground for that, so you can do kickouts. If your hamstrings tend to cramp, you can use something underneath your legs. For example, a footstool or an ottoman. So you'd be like this, and then lifting up. You could be up here, and then lifting a leg, like so. You could even add the arm bit in here as well. Now another version that you can do would use a ball. So I have a ball over here. I'm going to tuck this in my hands there. So same idea as what we did with the ottoman. Just with the ball, you're going to put your legs up like so, and then lift up and lower, and lift up and lower. And you can even add a little leg lift to that, So again, whatever version of bridge that you would choose, which is going to strengthen up the back of your body, you would do that for the equivalent amount of time that you did your front plank. So if you held your front plank for a minute, you would do your bridging for a minute, some version of what I've shown you here. So now we're going to do another exercise that is also for the back of the body, but it's a low back lift. Okay, so another version of a low back exercise. So again, core exercises, but working the back of the body. I'm going to remove my microphone or move it to the side here because it might get interfered with. So with the low back lift, you're just going to lie on the floor and you're going to put your hands, this would be the easiest version, hands down here. You're just going to lift up and lower, lift up and lower. You could do that for a minute. You could also lift and hold for a minute. This is a harder version. This is a harder version yet. Sometimes I do box arms like this, and then into a streamline position like I'm swimming, and then box arms, and then streamline. Again, you would hold all of those for approximately the same amount of time as you did with your front plank. It's just another version of core exercise for the back of the body, similar to the bridge. It's just an alternative. Now, if you had a sore low back that didn't like to lift like that, you would put something underneath your belly. I'm going to use the Bosu ball, but you could just use a couple of pillows. The idea is to get your belly lifted so that your hips are relaxed, knees on the floor, and your head can be, when your head is down, you're in a position that releases the back. So then in this position, I'm just going to lift up to neutral and then lower, and lift up to neutral and then lower. So instead of going into hyperextension like I had to when I was on my stomach, I can just come to neutral and still be holding my torso up. And the same thing is true here. You can just hold this position, do box arms to streamline, or some version like that, or in this position where you come up into a YMCA kind of Y arms position. So that's the back of the body for lumbar extensions. So now we're going to look at side plank. So this next exercise is my favorite exercise for working the sides of the core. You obviously have to do both sides, but I'm only going to demonstrate one. If you happen to have a Bosu ball, that could be really useful for these exercises, but most people don't, so I'm going to get rid of mine for the moment. I may make another video later about how to use the Bosu ball for doing side plank in several different ways. So side plank is quite a hard exercise, and you're not expected to be able to do it as long as you can do your front plank or your bridging. So in the research, our goal is usually about 75% of front plank or bridging, whichever is the greater number, to try and prevent injury. So side plank for beginners, I usually start from the elbow, knees are bent, and then you lift the hips up and push forwards like you would for your bridge and hold. And this is the easiest position. Then if you wanted to, you could add a little bit of leg lift, like so, like a clamshell. Or you could straighten a leg here and add that. Now, very conscious of the alignment of the torso, that you're not moving through the torso, because that's the whole point, is to stabilize your core, not to move it. So working your core musculature without a lot of spine movement. So the full version of side plank is with the legs extended, and there are a few different ways to do that. You can do it with your feet stacked like so. You can also do it with one foot in front of the other, which is my preference. I like to have the top foot forwards. You can also add some leg lifts and things like that to that exercise, but I don't feel comfortable doing that, so I'm not going to demonstrate it. Just one little piece here, really, really important, especially when you're doing your side plank from knees, that the hips go forwards. So as I'm here, I'm starting with my legs bent quite strongly, but as I lift up, my hips move forward so that I'm in a nice straight line from shoulder, hip to knee. All right, so there's your side plank. So if you were doing front plank for 1 minute, you would do some version of low back lift or bridge for 1 minute, and you would do side plank for 45 seconds. Now for my home routine, what I do is I go through one of each of those with 15 seconds break in between. So front plank, back lifts, side plank, other side plank, and I rotate through that 3 times, and that's my core workout. I hope that's helpful.